Thank you for inviting me, Avi. My name is Arbel, and as Avi mentioned, I work for a think tank named the Institute for Zionist Strategies, and it's my honor to be here in Talk 17. I think it's a very important initiative, and I will start with a short story to explain how important it is. Few months ago, I've met a senior diplomat who arrived especially to Israel in order to learn about, let's say, what the civil society is thinking, both in the Palestinian Authority and in Israel, about the two-state solution. And she found out, and that's what she told me, that actually no one, both in the Palestinian side and the Israeli side, do think that the two-state solution is actually a relevant idea. And I'm talking about the days before even Trump was elected. You know, it's in the end of Obama times. And at the end of our meeting, she asked me, what do you think we, as a European government, I will not say which European government, should do in order to promote peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians? So I told her, you should do anything you can to take off the two-state solution from the table, to take that option from the table, because when we have such a dominant option that everybody is speaking about, nothing else can be promoted, not any other initiative. And then she surprised me, and she asked me the following question. She told me, you have to understand, that's a huge problem for us. When I am looking on the different Israeli parties in Israel, all of them, apart from one, is speaking about two-state solution. So what do you want us, a European government, to decide for you that the two-state solution is not an option? You should give us the options so we can start promote it. And actually, I understood that we don't have in our political arena, we are still speaking for many reasons about the two-state solution. So that's why I think that this initiative, Avi, is very important, and I'm very happy to be here. Now, I would like to start with a general question, which is, can all conflicts be resolved? In the academia, there are two main approaches: conflict resolution and conflict management. Conflict resolution means that every conflict can be settled. We just need to find the right resources, the right time, and we do some efforts, and we can find a solution for any conflict. Conflict management approach is actually saying that not every conflict can be settled, but we need to find the way to manage it, so decrease the damage. We don't want, maybe even find some opportunities out of this conflict. And it's a huge debate in the academia. When I studied for my postgraduate degree, which I never accomplished, so mom, if you're watching that, sorry for that. And I learned in the department named, notice the name, Conflict Resolution and Management, okay? Because the researchers in the academia, in my university, couldn't make the decision which is the right approach, conflict resolution and conflict management. So they came with the idea of, let's call that department conflict resolution and management, which is actually find it very surprising that both sides see that name of the department as a proof for their approach. Because the conflict resolution people say, you see, we arrived we find a middle answer to that debate, and the conflict resolution said, yeah, you find an answer, but it's a very bad answer. That's the way you want to settle a conflict, okay? And usually, people think that conflict resolution is more oriented with left-wing agendas, and conflict management usually is more oriented with right-wing agenda, which is usually true, but we need to make we don't want to make a generalization of that when we are coming to speak about the two-state solution. For the sake of the argument, I will define left-wing as pro-two-state solution. And right-wing for those who are against the two-state solution. And then I will ask the question, the more important question for us, can the Israeli-Palestinian conflict can be resolved? Now, I think that's a whole debate that I think need to be done, and I think that a few of the lectures that were before me actually dealt with that question. But I think that even if I believe in conflict management and my orientation, my personal orientation is more about conflict management, at the end of the day, the people, the Israeli people, and the world public opinion, they want to see a vision, they want to see a direction. Even if you're managing a conflict, they want you to know where are you trying to lead. So actually, that's my claim, that we need a vision, either case. So now I would like to map the different approaches in Israel. Let's say we have left wing and right wing as we defined before, and we are trying to answer the question from those both perspectives, if the Israeli conflict, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict can be resolved. Okay, if let's say we believe it can be resolved and we are left wing, meaning two-state solution, so we'll try to make a peace agreement. If we don't believe that the conflict can be resolved, so we will probably try what we did in Gaza in 2005, and we'll go for unilateral withdrawal in order to promote two-state solution, but we don't care about what will be in that second state. If we are right-wing, and we do believe, and we do understand that the conflict cannot be resolved, so maybe we'll try to take the negotiation approach. We'll try to, let's buy some time, let's show the world we are trying, but we'll negotiate for managing here and there. But my question mark is actually, what if you're right wing, you're against the Palestinian state, and you want to end that conflict? And now, before I will answer that question, I want to take a deeper insight about what's going on in Israeli politics. Those three leaders, I assume you know all of them, they are considered to be the leaders of the right-wing parties in Israel. Are they right-wing? Let's ask. Maybe they are, maybe they don't. I think, and that's a disclaimer, I do think that they are all three, in that term, are right-wing, but let's argue about that. I will start from Avigdor Lieberman, which is the Minister of Defense nowadays, and he's actually claiming that he wants to promote two-state solution, but with a little difference, a little idea that usually is not common in Israel, and try to include in that Palestinian state, he would like to include some Israeli Arabs villages, cities, and just fix the border to include Israeli Arabs. Now, I personally think that Avigdor Lieberman, which is a settler, he lives in a settlement, Jewish settlement in Gush Etzion, I think he doesn't really believe in a two-state solution, but he does know, he does know that that kind of solution will put the Palestinian in a position they will be against that idea, and will make the case, which is a very strong case, that Israeli Arabs want to be a part of the Israelis of the state of Israel, not of the state of Palestine. Okay, but I think there is one thing, and that's one thing to learn. That's one principle that is very important to win also in the battle of the advocacy and in that combat. Okay, but I think his solution is a huge problem, apart from the part of giving the message that you're a pro-two-state solution, that it's also give a message to the Israeli Arabs that they are not welcome in the state of Israel. And for me, personally, as a liberal person who want to promote Israel as more Jewish and more democratic state, I do think that the Arabs are here to stay, and I do want them to feel as equal citizens, even though I believe it needs to be in a Jewish state. Prime Minister Netanyahu That's the biggest question mark. I think there is no one person in the world who knows if Netanyahu really think that he want to promote a two-state solution or not. Even nowadays, when Trump was elected, it seems to be that Netanyahu is not so trying now to promote a different solution. And I will say something that is a little bit humoristic, but I think it's very identifying Netanyahu, that actually there is a question mark whether Netanyahu crossed the Rubicon of the two-state solution. And I'm telling people I'm meeting that he actually crossed the Rubicon, but so many times that no one knows if it's happened odd number of times or even a number of times. So it depends actually when you're asking. But I do think that Netanyahu is doing a very important effort on putting the energy of his efforts on different arenas outside of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And I'm not speaking only about Iran, I'm speaking about economical growth of Israel, about connections with different countries, and I think it's an important principle that we need to preserve when we are coming to think about the alternative to two-state solution. The problem with Netanyahu approach that according to the world and the diplomatic arena, many of the people do blame Netanyahu for being the one who opposed the negotiation, they're trying to put the blame on Netanyahu instead of the Palestinians, and that's ever price too, and which we need to think of. And now I will go to Naftali Bennett. Naftali Bennett's approach try to implement sovereignty in sea areas, where we have most of the Jewish settlers and also some around 60,000 Arabs, and actually trying to annex. I don't like that word of annex because annex is usually when you're taking a land that is not yours, and I think we all agree here that the land of Israel, Judea and Samaria is ours. So, but he want to implement sovereignty in a partial way, maybe looking forward to the future, and that I think it's a very good principle that we need to think of. But the problem of Naftali Bennett idea that is actually want to do it in a unilateral way, meaning he doesn't want to ask, he want to enforce those Arabs actually to get that citizenship. He doesn't want to ask the world, we'll decide ourselves, which is it's not a must, but I think it's better to make a deal with the world and not against him. So actually, that's my position and my plan. I call it Jericho first. The state of Israel will conduct a referendum in which Jericho residents, I'm speaking about Jericho residents now, choose between two options. One option is becoming Israelis with full equal rights, okay? And the second option, remaining in their current situation until formulation of an alternative arrangement, whether it will be a two-state solution or not. What I want to achieve by that, let's speak a little bit about that idea. Why Jericho, first of all? According to Oslo Accords, I'm not sure if you remember that, in the early 90s, the first agreement was Gaza and Jericho first. That was the name of the pilot of Oslo agreement. And when we tried a different approach about Gaza in 2005, we saw what happened. It was not the best success. And now I try to offer Jericho first. Now, why specifically Jericho? Actually, for the same reason Jericho was elected to be part of Oslo Accords at the beginning. The population the number of Arabs who live in Jericho is only 23,000 people. Not a big number. Usually people think that Jericho is around 60,000, 100,000. It's a very small town. It's not such a big difference in demographic if we'll speak about demographics. Jericho is also geographically is isolated. That's the map of Judea and Samaria. We can see Jerusalem in the center. We can see Judea and south to Jerusalem. We can see Samaria up north of Jerusalem, the upper side. The brown color is for Arab settlements and Arab authorities, and the blue one is under Israeli control and Israeli citizens. And what we see east to Jerusalem is the Jordan Valley. The Jordan Valley, as you can see, it's pretty blue area, more under under Israeli control. And it's actually, we know that for security reasons and for many other reasons, it's very important to keep under Israel control in any agreement we will have. But we have one spot, one brown spot, relatively big in the Jordan Valley, which is Jericho. And Jericho is actually a good place to start with, as if we want to start that experiment, I will call it. Jericho is the largest Arab town in the Jordan Valley, and if we are speaking about a solution for the Jordan Valley area, we need to take Jericho into that consideration. And Jericho residents are relatively much more moderate and less involved in terror activities. After Oslo Accords, if you know, a casino was opened. The Israelis went there all the time as touristic area. I was there 4 years ago, and in a trip both to Jericho and Bethlehem, and I have to admit, in Bethlehem I feel that people are looking at me. In Jericho I just went in the streets with no problem, and it was all good. And I want to give a Jewish perspective to that Jericho idea. According to the Midrash, it's actually kind of a commentary about the story of Israel coming from Egypt. They came through Jericho. And according to Midrash Tanchuma, there is a mythical thought that Jericho is the gateway to the land of Israel. If Jericho is conquered, the entire land is immediately conquered. If we are coming to speak about Israel as the promised land, we also need to remember that way of thinking. I'm speaking about Jericho first, but I don't want to stop in Jericho. I do believe that if we'll try that experiment, it will, first of all, it will give a legitimation to, let's say, Naftali Bennett's project to implement sovereignty in Jewish settlements after we try that with Israeli Arabs. And if I'm speaking about managing the conflict, I'm sure that this idea will not be the best idea that the Palestinians will like. So it will put the responsibility back on the Palestinians now to answer whether they want or not to do that referendum. And I have a strange feeling they will not like to do it because they will be afraid of that result. So thank you very much. I hope you have a good time and enjoy the rest of the day.